Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, hitting the road into Hollywood to pick up a dog for the vacation. One thing you can always rely on is in the vacation times, a dog trainer, a lot of your customers are in need of a place to keep their dog when they go to travel or go to family and that sort of thing. So you get a lot of, if you have a clientele base that's built up, you're destined to have people asking if you can take care of their dog. So it's a scramble during the holidays, but you can always assure that you're busy. I've got friends with regular doggy daycare and full facilities, and they're always packed during the vacations, and it's just the way of the life. That's why I tell people the dog training is a 365-day-a-year job. I mean, you never get away from it. Dogs don't stop shitting, you don't stop needing to get fed and get watered and all the things you got to do to maintain dogs. It's 365 days a year. When you're doing it for a living, that makes it all the more so, because now you're responsible for other people's animals, right? So that being the case, you can rest assured that usually we'll get a little busier during the vacations. So like, I've got a good friend of mine who usually goes to Glamoth early or late on the holiday, and I goes early or he goes later after the holiday, and he'll take off for a week or so and enjoy himself because of the fact that that he is busy in those time periods, right? It's just the way, nature of the beast. So I haven't been doing many videos lately. It's because I haven't felt that I've had anything to really talk about that's new. I mean, I'm doing the same thing I did 2 years ago, explosion release off my table. And the reason I do that, guys, the bowls and the tables that you see me working dogs, is because that's the communication baseboard of no, good, yes. And it's easy when you get into a pattern and knowing, excuse me for a second, didn't have my door shut. Knowing the patterns that you need to create that will create the dog's understanding of what the marker words are all about, okay? And then I have that attitude of conditioned, my duration marker that I put in that is a part of that explosion release, right? So when I say the dog's name preparatory to a command, it creates a coiled spring, right? And it's classical conditioning, and it's boing, they're waiting for it. You're teaching the dog to wait. And the whole aspect of waiting in impulse control is a big part of my training programs, okay? So it is what it is in that respect, and that's what you see me doing when I'm doing this tables and the bowls. It's not the behaviors, okay, as much as it is the classical conditioning and condition the dog into the markers, right? There's a method to the madness. And then that whole communication baseboard, that's why we call it a baseboard. It's our first communication that we build on top of, right? I always like to tell people that dog training is like building a house, right? If you have a good, strong foundation and nice and flat, you can put the walls on it. But if it's wobbly and leaning to one side, you're going to have a problem from there on up, right? And every job relies on the next job in front of it. And I look at it like building a house, because that's just like it is. The slab has to be nice and square and be very level. The framing on top of it has to be square and not crooked and not messed up, right? So that the drywallers, when they come in, they can do their job. And so every part of it is nothing more than a slow, methodical build, right? And producing a product is nothing more than that, right? It's all about giving me enough time to do the job so that I can build that house. If I don't have, that's why I don't do a 2-week training program, guys. If you ever noticed, if you ever heard me talk about that, I don't believe in a 2-week training program. The reason is, how much can you do in 2 weeks? You can teach the dog to go to place. You can teach some fundamentals, but you're never going to really have a solid baseboard of communication that's going to give you something to be able to build on for the next transition in building this product, right? It takes me about 2.5 years to produce a finished product where I feel that the dog has got enough moxie to be able to be a personal protection dog, executive protection, and everything, the criteria that I need in my product. And that's what I do. I produce product, right? So that being the case, that's what I love to do anyway. Of course, I do a training and have customer dogs come in and all that, but it's not the same as when I build that product. You remember Dante the badass? Remember that little puppy? That dog is kicking ass and taking names. It's because he's got an owner that is very savvy in regards to what he wants, He understands what he wants. He's actually he's lucky enough to be able to travel in his job, and him and his wife, to different locations, and I've hooked him up with quality trainers the whole time. So when he got done with me and I did all that puppy development and the bite work and all that stuff as a puppy, genetics matter, we've talked about that. But when I got done with that, I ended up giving the dog back to the customer and hooked him up with Carlos Ramirez in Florida. So actually he went to Chicago first with another good friend of mine that's up there, John Anthony. And John Anthony's into ring sport and does search and rescue now. He does a lot of scent work and doing a lot of search and rescue. He's got himself a thriving business up in, I think it's Chicago. But wherever he's out there. And so the customer was just luckily there, and he asked me, do you know any trainers in that area? And I started thinking about it. Wait a minute, John Anthony. And so I hooked him up with John Anthony, and he was there a couple, 2-3 months, 90 days, and worked with John Anthony and had a lot of good sessions with him, and that's that dog's development, right? Then he went off down back to Florida, which is his hub, and I had already hooked him up with Carlos Ramirez. It's one of the best bite decoys around, right? And Carlos, to this day, will tell you that's one of the best dogs he's ever worked, right? And that's twofold. His genetics. The dog had some nice genetics. I picked the puppy and I developed that puppy all the way through, and then as that dog gets developed, now that dog is growing, right? So now he's going into, he's done with Carlos. He went from there to New Mexico, I think is where he's at with him and his wife in their business and what they do. And so now he has worked with another Michael Ellis mentor, Michael Ellis protege that's now in the New Mexico area, I do believe. And now he's working with him for a couple months, and then he's going to be going towards Sacramento in California, up where Canine Street League with Mike Jones. And Mike Jones is going to be able to play with him for a few months. That's going to be some fun to watch. So I've talked to Mike and I've asked him if he can send me some videos. I'm thinking of maybe if we could try to get all the videos, because the customer's taking videos. If my videos that I produced, and then John Anthony had some videos, and you know what I mean? And so we do a montage of this dog until he's about 2 years of age, right? When he's just about ready to kick ass and take names. You know, that dog's still a young dog. He's only probably a little under a year, maybe going on a year. So, just a great example of what you can do with a dog when he has the right work put into him, right? And you're getting different decoys and different styles. And so Mike Jones is going to really, I'm looking forward to seeing how he works with the animal and what he does to build himself a monster. He's going to enjoy him, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting. So yeah, it's all what it's all about. So it should be some fun in that regards. But so it takes a lot of work to build a quality product, okay? And you have to start with good genetics. Knowledge helps. I use, when I do my stuff, I'm way up here in the high desert, so I don't have a club that I can go to. I don't have a network of people that I've got around me, so I got to bounce all over the LA basin and go to some of the best decoys out there, right? The best trainers out there. And I usually hook up with some of the best, right? Those that have worked with me know that they're not too shabby, and if like Ted Bellmeyer was the last one I was working with, but I'm all over the place, right? And so I'm always hooking up with the best decoys that can give me what I need in development of my animals. And there's always something you're working on, guys. There is no perfect. I wish there was a perfect unicorn. Wouldn't it be a great thing? If you could rely on a perfect unicorn. A lot of people think because they get a good puppy, a good genetics-wise, right? And they do their R&D that they're going to have a great dog. Not if they don't know what they're doing. Not if they really don't understand what they're doing to develop an animal, right? One of those things that you hear me doing all the time is my environmental work. That's what makes me as good as I am, because I'm very good at working environment and understanding that. A lot of the things that I do are now being copied and emulated from other trainers all throughout the United States and into Canada, right? I see them doing it, and it's cool. It's not that they wouldn't do it on their own. It's just that I know dang well that they're watching my videos. When I see them in Home Depot and they're doing their thing, and they have no clue how long I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years, doing that same thing, same program, for as far back as Cesar Millan, 30 years ago, right? And the reason I did that, and that being got in my head as far as how important the environmental was to produce that product that I'm talking about, was that one of my first boss was a trainer out of San Rafael seeing eye dogs when it was first cracking that glass ceiling, right? Remember, before San Rafael and before that seeing eye dog programs that they have out there now, San Rafael was one of the pioneers of all of it, with their breeding program and everything else. Before that, you weren't allowed to take your dog on buses. You couldn't go into restaurants. You couldn't go into any place, right? They were the ones that broke that glass ceiling and proved that the dogs were viable in a society and that they deserved to be out there doing the job to help their owners navigate their environment, right? That's all a dog's doing, is helping their owner navigate their environment, right? And that's what it's all about. Service dogs, all that's kind of an offshoot. And now it's gotten to where we're at now, where people have taken advantage of the loopholes in the laws, and they're now taking their dogs out and they're trying to claim they're a service dog, and they have no clue what that really means. So it's another one of my hot button topics you see me talking about all the time. And I've got a few of them, half a dozen of them. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. I hope you had a good Christmas and you're going into your Happy New Year, and be safe. And I hope all those that are going through the trials and tribulations of travel right now get through it. You got to learn when to say no, folks. Sometimes it's a bummer when you can't see your family, but if you got weather coming and stuff, just don't do it. Nowadays, Mother Nature trumps man. Reality and truth, there's nothing that we can do to ever trump Mother Nature, and it's getting all the more so how we're screwing up our environment, right? And I like to look at it, just off subject here, and go back to my fish tank maintenance business that I had with my first dog training business when I was living in that coastal town there in San Luis Obispo, California. I put together, because I was into fish, the same thing. I was into all kinds of animals, but saltwater fish, African cichlids, I've done all of them. So back then I built a fish tank maintenance business, because there was a coastal town right there with all those restaurants, right? Go in and sell them on putting in a system right in their lobbies as the customers come through with some nice saltwater. And that was in the heyday of the reefs and all that, right? That's all died off now because they're trying to save the earth, so you can't get as much as you did. They're still out there, but not as much, right? But that fish tank maintenance business was a good business to have when I was running the coastal towns right there. So, that's what I was talking about. So ecosystems, when you're taking care of a fish tank, it's an ecosystem. You're balancing Mother Nature. The fish shit and piss in the water, and that's poison to them. And if you let that build up, the whole tank will go, and boom, it'll go out of whack, right? So all you're doing is you're balancing Mother Nature by using bacteria to break down the waste so that it's balanced, and then you do water changes to make sure that it doesn't go up to toxicity where you lose your fish. That's the layman's way of saying that. Now look at the earth and start thinking about what we're doing to it, right? It's nothing more than an ecosystem that's being balanced with Mother Nature, that's balanced it for millions of years, and here comes man putting this shitty shit into the environment that's screwing it all up. And what'll happen, and this is what the scientists are trying to tell you, is that it'll stay balanced a little bit. Now it's getting out of whack. When it tips and it goes foul, just like a tank would foul, you are done, right? We will have huge swaths of our environment that'll be gone, and we won't have what we have now. Will it bounce back? Yeah, as soon as man's not around to fuck it up, excuse my language, it'll bounce back. It may take a few thousand years, depending on how bad we screw it up. If we have a nuclear war or something like that, it's really going to tip that balance, right? And people don't understand that. We can't trump Mother Nature. We just can't. And we are only an ant on the surface of this earth, right? And man has been the one that screwed it up since the start. Some of the Indian threads that I've been reading on Facebook as of late, with their philosophy and stuff, they've known this for thousands of years. The one thing that you don't need on this earth is us. You take us off with, and Mother Nature will bloom, right? We're the ones that are screwing it up. So, all right, I'm yakking too long. We're on our way to Hollywood, and on the way back, I got another dog I got to stop by and start doing feeding the dog and taking care of their home when they're gone out of town. So it's going to be a busy weekend for me. Have a good 4th of July, you guys. Excuse me, 4th of July. Listen to me. First of the year, and we'll go from there. Thank you much. Have a good day. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. Yakking at the screen as always. Talk to you later.